Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson, and today I am so excited to share an interview that I just had with Stephanie Stutznegger with you. She is a mom of four kids, and they love living in Northern California. They spend lots of time outside as a family, and today we cover so many different topics, and in the most beautiful and lovely way. I think you will all find that Stephanie is very relatable. She shares like some really beautiful, hard things that they've had to overcome, but also these amazing things that she's learned from them and how, like the things that really made the biggest difference for her. So I think I found so many times today where I just feel like she said exactly what I needed to hear for the things that I'm struggling with. And I anticipate you having a similar experience where she will just connect and meet you right where you're at, and that you will get some of those gold nuggets that you need to help you in another week of regular motherhood.
Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson, and this is the new way to thrive in motherhood by leaning into who you are, what you love, your unique family situation, and personal mission to create a life that you actually want to live. I want to invite you to join me in saying no to the life of the exhausted supermom, burnout, victim thinking, being pulled in so many directions, suffering through survival mode, or being lost in motherhood, and say yes to building strong families and moving forward on our greatest goals in order to create a fulfilling life that we are excited to wake up to each day and become a soaring mother. This is the Thriving in Motherhood podcast.
I want to take just a moment and share a free gift that I've created for you called 3 Secrets to Do More of What You Love Without Hiring a Babysitter. This workshop is available for you to go watch right now and start taking action on so that you can do more of what you want to do, more of what's on your heart, more of what is important to you. With your children at home. You don't have to wait for them to be in school or for you to have loads of time. There are ways to start moving forward right now. And you can check that out at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/workshop. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Thriving in Motherhood podcast. Today I'm here with Stephanie Stutznegger, and I'm just excited because it's been a long time since I've done an interview with a mom in our community. And so, Stephanie, thank you for joining me today.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here.
Would you just tell us a little bit about what motherhood looks like for you right now?
Yes, of course. I have 4 children. I have 2 daughters and 2 sons. My oldest daughter is 10, and then my son is 7, and my next daughter is 5, and then I have a 2-year-old little boy. We are in the thick of soccer right now, and school, and the upcoming parties for Halloween and Christmas, and I'm helping my daughters in my 5-year-old's class right now. So that's been a real joy to be a part of that. And we live in Northern California and enjoy the beauty of being outside. And we are an outdoor family. And we love to do woodworking as well. My husband learned from his dad how to make cutting boards. And then it just kind of evolved into making a table, the kitchen table I'm at right now, an outdoor table. And then we just finished a treehouse, and we've built a bridge in our backyard that goes over a creek. That's very fun. And we're starting to work on our front yard. And it's just been a wonderful place to raise family and to enjoy being outside too.
Oh, that is so lovely. And I just love like the beauty of this outdoor life that you are describing. So, what are some defining moments that you have had in your motherhood journey? Okay. So, what have been some defining moments in your motherhood journey?
I would say all of my baby's births have been very defining moments. My journey with my oldest daughter, I feel like was just the biggest defining as I was figuring out how to be a mom, how to take care of her. And then she ended up having a severe speech delay that I just kind of waited for because her little friends were like speaking in sentences at 18 months. So on one end of the spectrum, I saw little girls who were doing so well at speech. And then everybody told me that girls talk early and they talk so well and they have this beautiful vocabulary. And I kept waiting and waiting. And finally, when she was 3.5, I took her to our pediatrician. who was a dear friend and our from church actually. And I just told him, I'm like, I have been waiting for this magic light to turn on and it hasn't. And what should we do as we are beginning this? And with my first also not quite knowing when the right time was to intervene. And so he recommended starting at our local school, meeting the speech teacher, getting an evaluation, and just starting a speech journey. And so that led to having so that was 3.5. When she turned 4, we did a psycho-emotional evaluation to see if there was any syndromes or missing pieces that we weren't sure about. And then after we did that, we were anticipating the results. She ended up having delayed processing. And that is a very big gray umbrella of just not having any defined like parameters. And so we just kind of took baby steps forward of getting her in a special ed preschool so that she could have speech and occupational therapy, and just gradually start giving her services so that maybe her speech could blossom one day. And I think what was so eye-opening for me is that I had an unknown path in front of me of, will she be able to be in regular school? Are we starting a special ed journey? And we just love her for whatever progress, she can make. And it was just these very baby steps coming. And she started, regular kindergarten and was able to just blossom as she became an advocate for herself with her speech. And she actually just graduated from speech in March. So she did it for almost 7.5 years. And it was a very touching day because we had been on this journey so long with her. And she's been able to excel in her classes, and we just had a slower start. So I learned very much the importance of baby steps with her and just having faith that one step forward to make progress on a goal of helping her be the best that she can.
Can I just pause for a second and ask you a question about that? So
Yeah.
what was that like for you as the mom when you said like all of her friends are talking, like, all the other moms around you are having maybe more of a typical experience with their first child, and what was that like for you as you are walking this unknown path?
Yes, I was very self-conscious because my degree is in speech pathology. And so I was very, I felt really bad actually, because I was like, this doesn't seem like it should add up because I've, gone to school for this, and it's just very ironic because we are having such a severe speech delay. And I talked to our doctor's wife, who is another dear friend, and she said, Stephanie, it's okay. Even doctors' kids get sick. And I was like, oh, okay, it's not me. Like, I didn't put this on her, or it's not because of me. It's just something that we are going through as a family, and that hopefully my speech background can be an asset instead of something that I am afraid that I caused, or something that I should have done and didn't. So that was very humbling at first, and then realizing that it's okay, doctors' kids get sick too.
That's beautiful, actually, and very reassuring, probably in so many, like whatever you're struggling with, right, with your child, to know like this is just part of it, right? This is like not anyone's fault. It's just part of the experience of raising children.
Yes, very much.
I love that.
Thank you. That was a big defining moment for us. And then one more, if you don't mind me sharing, is our outside family culture has involved raising chickens, and we have ducks and that swim in our creek. But in the very beginning of raising chickens, and actually still to this day, we experience the circle of life very frequently. And chickens, they can come and go. There's predators, there's They can do like hurt themselves and die, or just different things. So they're not the smartest of creatures, but in the very beginning, I was so afraid of my kids having loss and experiencing loss. And there was a couple of times where some of our little hens that are called pullets had uh, died the next day, and we were able to replace them at the feed store. So that my kids, in the very beginning, I just was so worried how they would handle it and just the grieving process. Um, and then it was getting better and better of just like telling them, oh, our chicken didn't make it, and we can bury it, and we can be grateful for the time we've had, raising them. And this one instance where we were raising our baby ducks, my sweet family that lives close by, their dog actually killed one of the baby ducks while we were all together, like a big group with my family, their family, neighborhood kids. And it was a situation that we couldn't cover it up, where we couldn't quickly go replace a baby duck. It was in the moment. And my nephew had tried to make this big distraction and just get the kids away and try and just kind of soften the blow a little bit. But I had this moment where I'm like, oh, it's okay. I actually want them to grieve the loss of a friend or the loss of something that they've cared for. And then we can go bury it. We can add a little rock on top and paint it. We can just memorialize it and experience loss together, because I felt like it was good practice. We haven't had, our grandparents are just luckily still alive and doing well, and even great grandparents. And so my kids haven't really experienced a loss yet. And I thought this was a really good practice of just experiencing life and grieving the loss of a little friend.
That is so beautiful, because I think we've confused happiness with avoiding anything hard, right? Or having hard things happen to us. And really, we're going for building resilience and the ability to experience all these different experiences and the emotions that come along with it. And I'll be honest, I want chickens, and my biggest fear is what you just described. Like my kid, what happens when the chicken dies? Like that's stopping me from getting chickens. And I appreciate your beautiful example of not just for getting chickens, but just a reminder of all those things that happen are an opportunity for us to practice, like you said, together. There's so much wisdom in that, and not and just having that mindset, we're going to learn how to do this together. It's just beautiful.
Well, thank you. It's been so good for us. And so, yeah, it's a lesson that I hope they carry with them.
Yeah. It's a lovely glimpse into your family culture as well. I just love that unity that you have.
Thank you. All of my kids have loved being outside, and especially my youngest is just he just could live outside, just like my husband. We could just live in our treehouse and they could be perfectly content. So outside is a very big part of our family life.
Have you read My Side of the Mountain?
I haven't.
Okay. Your whole family would love it. We're listening to it right now. It's about this guy that goes and lives, this boy that goes and lives on a mountain all by himself and just builds. You will love it. I might do a whole podcast episode on that or on that book, because I love it so much. Okay. What is something that you've been working to overcome?
Oh, I have had my journey this year has been decluttering, and I have that started about last fall, when I was just feeling that our home was feeling too full and too tight. And it was difficult to do just clean up and managing our house. And it was, it felt like such a big undertaking. And so that's why I would say I had to overcome it. And I had to quickly change my thinking from what my house should be to what my house could be. And that gave me a lot of just grace and breathing room to allow progress to be made in that area, because I loved watching Dawn at the Minimal Mom and just her inspiration and how beautiful her home was. And I would just, after I'd watch a little episode to get inspiration and look around and just feel my courage plummet because it's like, I don't know if this is possible. Like, I wish it could be. And so then it's like, okay, maybe we could start just slowly gathering one room at a time, things that weren't no longer getting used or outgrown or forgotten. And I actually had I was also a little bit worried about decluttering and having regrets or having toys or things that my kids would be asking for. I was really nervous about that. And I had actually donated some toys that had not been played with in years and that had multiple pieces. They were these little Mickey Mouse cars that have the base car and a shell and a character. And so it was like 3 pieces in one. And I had picked them up all over the house many times, and then they had been in a bin for a long time. And so I was actually kind of excited. I'm like, oh, phew, all of these like 18, 20 pieces of this set, I get to quietly let go. And then the next day after I had donated, they asked about them. And I could not believe my luck. I thought I was going to be so safe on that one. And I felt really bad about it. And I even called the thrift store. I was like, hey, if you see a bag of these toys coming through, could you set them aside? And they actually told me that it's really like finding a needle in a haystack with the amount of stuff that comes in. And I let myself just worry endlessly about it because I just felt so much guilt. And then my husband actually replaced some of them for my Christmas present one year. And I just, because he had seen how much decluttering meant to me, and then he wanted me to just feel reassured that I was on a good path and that to not have my regrets hold me back. And the irony is that they don't play with them. That after we have replaced them, they haven't played with them. And it actually gave me the courage that I can still press forward, because my goal for decluttering was to make the space for the relationships and space to focus on, since we love to be outdoors so much, then let's keep the inside simple so we can spend as much time as we can outside. And so whenever I have a moment and the regrets do come along, and that's okay, because my main goal is that I have the time and love and energy to give my family, and that we can live in a space that provides peace and comfort and the things that we need, instead of maybe too much of extra things we don't need.
Well, and I think there's just so much to be. So you're part of Soaring Mothers Society. So I've been hearing your updates, once a month for the the whole year really that you've been doing this. But to hear some more of these stories of how you really had to learn and develop the skill to be able to get to where you wanted to go. And I just love that your husband is so supportive of you and what you're doing. And I feel like there's a lesson, like when we feel horrible about something or we feel like we've messed up, to not allow that to stop the progress that we've been making.
Yes, I love that so much.
It's the lesson that I needed today. And a completely different separate area of my life where I messed up a little bit recently, and I want to give up and run away, but now I won't.
Love that.
Okay. What is something, well, let's actually talk about this since we mentioned it. What was your experience, and what has your experience been in Soaring Mothers Society? When you joined, why did you want to join in the first place?
Yes, I had it started like last like September and October, when I started the idea of just like decluttering my home. But before that, I had listened to your the summits in 2021 and 2022, and I was just so amazed of these mothers that were raising families and working or teaching. There was so many that I loved about family culture, which I actually hadn't heard that term before. And so then really thinking what our family culture could be, I'm like, oh, it's pretty much everything outside. It's something that we love, but also grit and doing our family photos and just food storage, emergency preparedness. There were so many good things that I loved. And as I was starting decluttering, I was realizing that I enjoyed that and that progress was so important, but I was also feeling overwhelmed because I learned that my 3 pillars, my structure, soul, and scope pillars, were not all in balance yet. And so I joined because I thought that this community could be very insightful, that I could learn from more wisdom from these other mothers. And I, when I was outside in the backyard, my husband had taken my older 2 to a BYU football game, and they were gone for the weekend. And I just had my younger 2 at home, and I was looking around, and there was plenty to be picked up inside and outside. And I was so worried that I was too late in being the type of mother that I wanted to be. And I was just like, maybe this is just like kind of how it is in this day and age. Maybe it's just constant overwhelm. Maybe it's just a survival mode until our children are raised and, to off to college or whatever path they lead. And I was just feeling very down, just very gloomy. And I was thinking, maybe I'll be a good grandma instead. Like, I felt like I had truly missed the chance. And then I paused for a moment and I was just like, well, what is it about a grandma that is drawing me in right now? And I was thinking how they often have a curated home of things that they have, treasures they've collected over the years, things that are very special to them. And I also thought how if I were a grandma, when my grandkids came over, I would want to pull out my most favorite toys for them or my most favorite books or wrap them up in just their most favorite blanket or the baby blanket that was their mother's or father's. And I just started getting excited about this idea. I'm like, I don't have to wait to be a grandma to do this for my family. And that just lit a fire in me. And so whenever as I was decluttering and I would think about this, I'm like, think like a grandma, think like a grandma. I can do this. Like, I want my home to just showcase what we care about, what we love, what is the most special to us. And it just kind of did this master overhaul on my decluttering, but also peeling away maybe some extra activities or simplifying sports or just letting our life be how I wanted it to be, what my vision could be. And so I loved that slowing down and taking that time to think about what my vision was for the year and then letting that kind of ripple out to what my projects and goals wanted to be. Because I really wanted a curated life that had time for my kids where I could sit down and talk with them with their concerns, build loving relationships, read to them. It just really was a powerful thought that one afternoon. And I had learned from one of the guests on your podcast, I think her name is Ariel, about getting off the freeway off ramp and kind of wandering off the path a little bit, maybe exploring a meadow, just kind of taking that time to pause while we get clarity, while we create our vision, family culture, just while we can kind of mull things over a little bit before and choose when we want to get on the on-ramp again. So that has been such a helpful mindset to think like a grandma for me.
I think that is amazing. And I love how in that moment of like utter discouragement and feeling like you missed the boat, that you had the thought that you needed in that moment that
Yeah.
has literally changed your life.
Yes.
I would say like it has
Yes.
carried you through in the most beautiful way.
Thank you. It was, I think, just exactly when I needed it. It came, and it's a very treasured memory when I think back on it.
I feel like that needs to become a part of all trainings now when in conversations with your house. Like, think like a grandma. I love that so much.
Thank you.
So, um, as you've gone through Soaring Mother Society, I love that that's where you started and have made so much progress on your vision. What do you feel like has been the biggest impact of meeting every month? And how have you changed during that time?
Oh, I love just hearing how different our lives are and hearing that there is such an array of things that we're working on. I love our group right now with one of the moms like pursuing going back to the university, or another um, just adapting to a new life in a new country. And I just feel like there's so much power in sharing our experiences and then learning from each other. And then as I think about these women throughout the month, and so just hoping they're doing well, hoping that they're reaching their goals, or hoping that if their kids have been sick, that they're getting better. And so I feel like it's a very sweet chance to celebrate our lives and to celebrate um, our different goals that we're working on, and that we all have a united goal of being uh, good mothers and good wives, or good. We wear so many hats, of sisterhood and our daughters and aunties, and I feel like it's just very encouraging to meet each month, and I really look forward to it, because as I'm working on my goals, I think of like, oh, I can't wait to share that, or I can't wait to get an opinion. If I'm this month, as we've met, I was feeling a little bit muddled between a project versus a goal, or how those could blend, or what insight I could get from others. And so I feel like it's a really great way, because we're working so hard to just have these beautiful lives that we can really bounce ideas off of each other, but also feel so supported at the same time.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I also want to point out too, like you started like where the only thing you could focus on was decluttering for a while, right? Like it just you were surviving and you weren't making progress on the next 90 days program. You were just you were just like for probably like 3 or 4 months, like I'm just decluttering and I'm slowly working through my vision. Is
Yeah.
that yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So at what point, like how did you keep going without feeling discouraged?
I um as I would slowly declutter and find a room that was like getting better and better, and then it was easier and easier to tidy, or I would open a newly organized drawer, and I would just get Target has these wonderful, just simple plastic containers of different shapes and sizes that fit in, and that it, that really helped. If I could go revisit a drawer and just look in it, be like, oh, that looks so good. I can do this. I can go and face this room, or face bins in the garage. I think were an extra challenge, just because they're dusty and there's contents in there that you don't know from how long back and things. And so it was very helpful to have a small space that was already organized, or a drawer that was already looking good. And then just the celebration part of the Soaring Mother Society, I just have to bring with me, or just like do like, even just say out loud, I did such a good job, or I love that drawer, I can keep going. And it really, I just had just such a desire for our home to be easier to manage, that it fueled me for a long time. Actually, I just, once I could see small bits of progress, the momentum just kept me kept me going. And there are some days or weeks that not much happened just because I'm also trying to live life and do school pickup and grocery shop and lunches. And we like to mainly just eat at home. So I do a lot of cooking at home. And so there are some weeks that some didn't get done, but then it just was kind of like that muscle, like let's exercise that again. Let's get on this bandwagon and keep going.
Excellent. Well, and I think too, like there hit a point where the ice cube melted, right? Like you went from being afraid to having people in your home to being able to like welcome in groups.
Yes.
And there was like an actual moment where you're like, okay, my life is different now.
Yes. When I got a 1 week notice of like hosting a brunch for the ladies at our church to, because our backyard is very just kid friendly. There's lots of room to explore, and the chickens they really enjoy. And I told Jeff, I'm like, that was a life-changing moment to say yes and feel like I could actually be ready in a week. I could actually have probably been ready in like 2 or 3 days. Like, and I was so excited. Our home is not perfect all the time by any means because my kids are very busy and creative and do lots of art projects. And so, but just knowing that I didn't need a month, where I felt like I would need probably a month to put things away and get it to how I would feel comfortable having them over. So that was just in September. So it was a very recent experience of having people over within a week's time and even having the backyard tidy and wood pieces picked up. And it was such a pleasure to have them over because I had this amazing amount of gratitude in my heart for how hard I had worked and that I could then share, with others. It was a nice feeling.
Well, and I think one of the things so beautiful is like you just like slowed down, you focused on what really mattered, the thing that would make the biggest difference. And just by the nature of that, we talk about like S in soaring is to serve and to be able to bless those in your circle of influence, and it will get bigger. And in this situation, like your circle of influence increased, right? Like you were able to welcome more people over, like and serve at a higher level than you've been able to before because you said no to a whole lot of things for a long time and just got really clear about what mattered. And so I think it's just like this beautiful example of that grit, right? And getting that clear vision and then celebrating the wins so that you can keep going until that energy momentum builds to
Yes.
see amazing results.
Thank you. It really helps when you can celebrate. And just because that just, I feel like as moms, then it's really easy to maybe just put our head down and just keep going. And there's endless things to do, really, if you think about it. But it was just like my kids celebrate when their homework's done. Like, they feel really excited, or when we're starting up piano lessons and, to put a sticker on their page. And I was like, oh, that does our souls like so much good to just have that moment of acknowledgement before, pressing forward on something.
Yeah. Okay. What is something that you have mastered?
I absolutely love to make chocolate chip cookies. It is my joy since I was 12. My mom taught me when I was young. I love every part of it. Just pulling the ingredients out, mixing them together, tasting the cookie dough, putting them in the oven. I am sharing them. Like Jeff, my husband, teases me. It's just like, how many are we keeping? Like, or how many are we giving? And so we had done just a very rough calculation a couple years ago, where on an average of like 1 to 2 days a week making cookies, over 44,000 cookies like in my life. And just laughing how my recipes have changed and emerged and altered. And it's really one of my true joys. And we do it every Friday for sure, because we do our going back to family culture. Friday is our pizza movie cookie night, and Saturdays we do hamburgers and games. And my daughter, during COVID, when she was 7, created a family, like a weekly family activity list. And so those two, Fridays and Saturdays, have stuck for 3 years now. So that's been such a wonderful thing. Another one that I was kind of checking in with my husband to just kind of see if we were on the same page of what I thought was mastery. I really love budgeting, keeping track of our family finances. I have worked so hard on them over the years to just live within our means, but also accomplish some different goals that we had. And my my biggest goal was just using our finances to pay back my in-laws because they helped us with the down payment on our house. And they did that for all of their 5 children. And I think that was such an amazing gift for us to be able to get into a home and to pay them back was just it was just the most rewarding feeling because it was sacrifice, and it's about really picking and choosing your purchases um, and saying no, like to eating out or just different things. Like it took just a lot of just self-control that way, just mastery of just being in control of your money, telling your money where to go. And we actually paid them off the day before the world shut down in March of 2020. And it was one of the happiest days of my life because we had worked so hard. And as a celebration, I had then wanted to save money to take the kids to Hawaii for a week. And it got postponed until last year, just with the restrictions of travel and different things. And so we took them last May, and it was the sweetest trip because it just symbolized so much hard work, and the kids were part of it. Like as we, pick and choose and, our items carefully and Christmases and birthdays, and it was a family involvement that way. So I would say really that budgeting, it means a lot to me to live within our means. And I am also really good at helping food stretch, of just working with what I have in the fridge or making leftovers work. And I I actually take a lot of pride in that because of just making things last. Or if we are having something left over that's on the smaller side, I can just add in more fruits and vegetables to create it into a bigger meal. And it just, I guess, warms my heart to not let things go to waste. So those are a few
But
things.
I just love with the joy that you speak of a lot of things that now people like look down upon, like being clear, in control of your finances and sacrificing for something greater and not being wasteful with our food. And you speak with such just joy and gratitude. And I think that is a beautiful example for all of us, of how to approach things that can often feel like mundane or overwhelming or a burden.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. What is something you're still working on?
Um, would say kind of fine tuning the structure pillar. With my kids, we are doing like a morning big five and just helping them have clarity. And for several months, the mothers in our Soaring Mothers Society know that we've been working on like prayer and making our beds, first thing in the morning. And so just letting that grow into making their lunches, getting dressed, and, all of those things to do before school. And then this season of soccer has been its own survival mode in a way of just having our evenings so full. And my husband coaches both of my daughter's teams. So it's a wonderful way that he bonds with them and, can serve in the community. But it's been tricky at night too. Some of our dinner time together is a little bit scattered depending on who's at practice, and then getting homework and piano done and trying to get to bed at an early hour has been very challenging. But I was thinking as I as our soccer practices have gone from 2 days to 1 day, and then our season finishes in early November, how I think an evening Big Five would be very beneficial, just so that we can quickly have a checklist to start off our mornings well the next day. And something I love that you've taught is the toothbrush tidy, of just picking up after we brush teeth, making sure our rooms are ready. And then we like to, after the kids are in jammies and their teeth brush, we do scriptures, and we're reading the 6th Harry Potter book. And so we have our, my husband will read aloud, and he's done it for all the other books as well. But I just want to keep that going, having a family book that we're reading together. And it's a very relaxing thing to do at the end of the day. And so as I've been thinking about that, I'm like, oh, our Big Five are there, like we're doing those things, but maybe acknowledging them more, so that that routine and the making it more automated comes a little easier, because my kids are also sweet, but they are very free spirits as well. And so if a project comes to mind quickly, it will be executed. And so just thinking of ways to help ground our evenings is something. So I think the structure pillar is what we're working on right now.
Well, and I love how you describe it too, because I think this is true for most of us. We do have the pieces there. We just need to be aware of them, right? Like you're doing the things. We just have to remember that they're there and make it intentional. So, also, heads up, soccer should end about the same time you hit Harry Potter 7, but I'm reading that right now with my kids. We have started going to bed an hour earlier so we can read an hour longer, because we cannot stop reading.
I love that. I know.
It
I
like
thought
just took off.
it needs to be really early so we can enjoy as much as we can.
Yeah, yeah. It's been really good motivating, because we still, I don't know, we were staying up late, and this has kicked us into gear, so we can get to bed better. But anyway, all right. So my last question for you today is: when you look at yourself all the way from holding your daughter in your arms the very first time, all the way to now, what is the biggest change that you see in yourself?
Oh, that is a really good one. Um, I just with the challenges that my first daughter had, I was really worried about how to welcome more children into our family and to share that time with them, and to kind of, she had very much one-on-one attention, and how to just share our family just environment with more children. And I feel like I really had to balance just the time that I spent, and not feeling guilty about just as our family was evolving and developing. And I would say I just feel like, for like, if another baby wished to join our family, I feel very grounded in the experience that I've had of just letting more babies join the family culture that's already in place. My sister-in-law had told me with my first that it's like you are joining the baby's family, and then once you have more babies, that they are joining your family, as just the subtle change of just like they will join what you are creating and establishing for your family. And I feel like I have just gained a lot more confidence in just knowing that I can have like inspiration for my family, and I can, work on goals alongside with them. I realized a long time ago that I thought that once I became a mother, that my journey was finished, in a way where it was now like I've kind of had my time, and now it's their time, and they're the focus and things. And while I agree that they do take a lot of time and energy, I have been letting myself develop qualities that I am wanting to be better at. And so I think the biggest change is that I want to be the best person I can be, and I can grow right alongside my kids too. And I just love that idea of just as they're having their successes in school or getting an award in class or things like that, that I am celebrating them. I'm so happy for them. And then I feel like my reward is just the gratitude for a better life than what I had envisioned, and gratitude of just following my vision and just using those three pillars as anchors. Um, and just being in the Soaring Mothers Society has just offered a lot of clarity that way. It's like my reward for that I get to share what I'm working on. So I'm just very excited to just realize that get to keep going, and I get to grow and learn, and maybe one day enter the workforce again. I'm not quite sure what that part will look like in the future, but I just love knowing that my growing is still continuing.
Oh, thank you so much, Stephanie. Do you have any last thoughts that you would like to share with moms who are, you know, doing their best, but still feeling like some days are survival?
Oh, yes. I have had countless survival, sometimes more days than not survival. Um, I was talking to my husband about this and how um, just when we're feeling like we have that one step forward, two steps back, that one step forward really counts. And I think it's sometimes very difficult to see. Um, and an example of that is my little guy was doing really well on sleeping and going to bed at night in his crib until we traveled in July. We have not, he's very distressed about bedtime and doesn't want to be in there by himself. And we will sit next to him on a stool. He pats the stool for us to sit on for a long time each night. And we, but it is getting better in the fact that he is comfortable with going in his room. Yes, we are still sitting there, but it's, um, we have just laughed like, oh, we thought we might get that back within a month, and it's taking a little bit longer than that. And just another quick example is when I was doing piano lessons for my kids in the spring, and we had a good rhythm. And then the end of school year was very busy with projects and parties and end of the year. And then the summer came, and then piano had gone by the wayside for like 4 months. And as a new piano student, I'm like, we will have to start over. And that is a big chunk to swallow because I don't know how much is being retained. But I love just the guidance that you gave me for me to play the piano, to just welcome that into our home again. And just my husband plays the piano for our church, and just inviting music, inviting us to play. And then gradually we did start over a little bit, but it was the progression moved quickly because they were able to remember. But if you just count that one step forward, it really makes a difference, and it means everything in the long run when you can, even those two or even more steps backward, just keep pushing. One step forward really does make a difference.
Wow, those are beautiful words that I think we'll just end on there because I think that sums up maybe our entire conversation together so well. Just that one step forward really makes a difference. So, thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom with us today. I felt like the entire conversation is just full of gold nuggets. And I hope that the mom listening got what they needed today because there were certainly multiple things that you've said today that have just pierced my heart, right? To, just exactly what I needed to hear today. So, thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so grateful to visit with you today. Thank you.
Today, I'm excited to share with you about the Made to Soar Next 90 Days program. It is a self paced online course with lots of interaction from me that has transformed the lives of women from all around the world as they have learned to build unique family systems that support them in their own unique life circumstances, that allow the necessary and essential things of life to get done and leave time and energy to do what matters most to them. I'm going to let some women who have been through the program tell you a little bit more about their experience now.
Mucking through the day was just survival. And then it was like the thought of trying to do anything extra was like, well, that's just never going to happen.
think with Made to Soar, I don't know, I was probably hoping that it'd be the magic bolt for morning.
I mean, we had no systems in our house. I, I mean, we had no morning, we had no routines. Like we were.
How can I infuse meaning into my life? And even if I do the same thing, how can I think about it differently so that I'm feeling fulfilled?
And so that was my goal in joining the Next 90 Days, was to figure out how to kind of handle all of these different domains. How do I become intentional with all of these things and make sure that I'm meeting my own expectations?
Now I have systems set in place that, like, you know, things like the laundry, just automatic things get done.
Because I was able to have the foundation of some of these systems and routines, when things got crazy, I could still go back to those and be like, okay, well, at least the laundry got done. At least my kids got fed. At least I read the Bible and did my workout today.
So it helped me go through a couple big moves and big changes and to keep some level of stability for the family.
Figuring out how do I homeschool? How do I do it with consistency and some level of discipline? And then how do I like build a business and still find like, you know, meaningful work outside of my home? All of that, I wouldn't have known how to organize it. It was all kind of just like spaghetti in my brain.
With Made to Soar, just gaining clarity about what I wanted my days and weeks to look like, my hours and my spare minutes.
This is how we get to where we want to go, and just changing those expectations has helped me be happier.
You know, I have power to change my circumstances, right? That I can put in new routines. I can solve some of these problems. I can think about things differently and realize that I have power to be in a better place.
Where you are planted, watch the blossoms grow.